Hello, 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 everyone. Welcome to Lessons in Savvy Living. And I am so excited to get this episode going because I have a guest who has some really, really interesting stories to tell. So, first of all, my guest today is TJ Cheeks. So, TJ, first question: what are three things that people should know about you?
Um, well, I used to say I'm a serialpreneur, but now I was corrected and it was like, no, you're a businesswoman. I'm like,
Oh,
okay,
okay.
so let me back up. I am a
Mhm.
businesswoman.
Right.
I'm also a mom of four.
Oh,
And I'm just that type of person you just can't put in a box. I love everything that I truly do. Yeah.
yes. And I'm not even going to make a joke about putting people in boxes
No pun
because
intended.
no pun intended, because today's topic is I will say that I have an interesting or non traditional job.
Right.
So, my question to you is what do you know about that? TJ, what kind of job do you do? And what's your story behind that?
Yeah. Well, where can I start? From school, I started out, well, from high school, I started out as vocational high school. I learned cosmetology. So I was licensed as a cosmetologist before I even had my high school diploma. Always loved science. As I continued through the years, and maybe by the second child, I decided I'm going to go back to school. But this time, I decided to go to mortuary school.
Wait,
Like I
wait,
said,
wait. Say that again. What school?
mortuary school.
Mortuary school. Okay. All right. I heard it. Go ahead.
And the thing with that is that's not something that's advertised. So if you're interested in it, you have to do the work in order to find out exactly, what it entails. I'm a science buff. The human body fascinates me, whether it's dead or alive. It
Mm.
is truly, truly amazing. A lot of people look at it on the morbid side. Not so much. If you really go into the science of it all, it blows me away. So I went back to school for mortuary science, and since what, oh 05, oh 04, oh 05, oh 05, I was licensed in New York. And then when I moved to the South, I was licensed for South Carolina as well.
Okay. So let me take a few moments.
Right.
So you said, "Hey, you know what? I'm going to go back to school." You,
Hmm.
you didn't say I'm going to study, psychology, or I'm going to study mortuary science. And
Right.
then, so you started off, you said, with cosmetology. So is there
Hmm.
a way that that connects and blends and tells, are you fixing up the people who have departed?
Right. Exactly right. See, in New York, you're licensed to have a complete license. So you are a funeral director embalmer. Whereas other states, you can just be a funeral director or you can be an embalmer. Well, this license encompasses both. So when I moved to South Carolina, I am considered a dual licensed funeral director. So I have both licenses. So not only do you help the families, you secure all information for that, I also embalm. I also do hair and makeup as well, which was a plus when, going to be interviewed for different funeral homes to work for. And they're like, wait, whoa, you do hair and makeup? That's the whole kit and caboodle right there. So you're
Wow.
able to do everything. Yeah.
So is there a recruiter that comes out and says, we need some more people? People are dying every day. We need some more folks. Or is there kind of this underground kind of job market?
Yeah. Well, you know what? Usually in the funeral industry, it's usually a family thing.
Hmm.
Usually have maybe the grandfather, and then the son comes along, and then the grandson comes along, and the business usually passed down through the generations. However, when I went to school, they was telling us a lot of the children of, former that's not what they want to do. They are not interested. They do not want to do that with their life. And you have a lot of females that was coming into the industry because it is a male dominated field, but the faces are definitely changing. You have a lot of females coming in and we could do the work just like the men can do the work. We could lift 300-pound bodies. We do it. We get in there. We get the work done.
So that's
it's a,
something. Yeah, I had not really thought about that, and that probably makes
mhm.
a difference when we've been to funerals where we look and we're like, no, who? And it may have been a man who was trying to like kind of get, you know, mama right, and it was like,
Yeah, right.
not.
It's not working.
Yeah, no, somebody. And so that's that question, who has the body, is a very serious question, especially in the Black community, because
Oh
we
yeah,
want to make sure that everything is done properly, and we want to make sure our loved ones are put away in a way with dignity,
of
and
course.
in a way that we would have that they would have approved of. Because
Hmm.
so talk to me about, as we're recording this, we're going through the terrible COVID crisis.
Yes.
And so is this something, are you a practicing mortician now? How has business changed during this crisis? Unfortunately, people have passed away at
Oh
a
yeah.
higher rate, but then on the other hand, you can't have the in-person funerals that you were having. So
Right.
to me about that.
Okay, yeah. So yes, I'm still currently licensed, but I'm also independent as well. So when the funeral homes, they get busy, they have a lot of services, they'll call me in and I'll handle the services for them. So whether I got to get the hearse, pick up, the remains and go to the church, or have the service, great size service, church service, that's what I do. Or
See,
even if they are out of business, out of town, you always have to have a licensed funeral director on hand. So I would even go in and, work for that week, at the funeral home.
wow. So you're like the Uber of
Yeah,
funeral direct.
I didn't even think about it like that.
You
Yeah.
get a like, oh, I got a bus, gotta go. And
Yeah.
we're making light of this, of course, but we know that it's a serious situation. And it's
Hmm.
not easy when you lose a loved one. I've lost many loved ones, but you have to kind of make sure you can see the joy or the humor in situations. Otherwise, I can imagine. I mean, what about depression in your line of business?
Yeah, well, when we go to school, it's a lot of classes that we take. People just think, oh, they just go and work on the body. No, we take microbiology, we take psychology. There's a lot of classes that we have to take. With those classes, they kind of train you on how to be a part of the service and then attach yourself at the same time. When
Mm,
you're at work, you leave that stuff at work. You don't, try not to bring it at home. I can't say don't bring it home. You try not to bring it home. But believe me, when you're handling a service, that's all you can think about. Making sure everything goes right. Because when you think about it, we're almost like a wedding planner. However, the occasion is not a happy occasion, but
right.
we still have to have flowers. We order the caskets. You have to have the hearse. You have to have the limousines. Where you're going to have the service at. What cemetery are you using? Your insurance, information. Even the paperwork, because we have to have certain paperwork to file in order to get the death certificate. So it's a lot involved. And there's no room for mistakes because this is not a do-over. And then on top of that, you have a grieving family. So you want to try to take the less stress off of the family so they can grieve and not have so much to worry about. And it's hard to say, but they lean on you hard. They really do,
Yes.
especially if this is the first time they ever dealt with a death. So a lot of times they're all over the place. And then they're apprehensive of dealing with the funeral homes because a lot of times we get a bad name.
Mhm.
Oh, they just want to swindle you out of your money and sell you things you don't need. I can't say that's not the majority. It's
Okay.
really not. We really do love what we do. And personally, I'm a people person. So I love helping people in their time of need, and if this is what I can do for you in order to give you some type of relief, then that's what I'm going to do. My famous line that I always say to my families is, I got you.
Okay.
And they come back and they tell me that all the time. They're like, you said it. I got you. I said, don't worry about it. I got you. And they're like, I don't understand. How do you? I said, I'm gonna ask you a couple of questions. You're gonna give me these answers. If there's something that you don't understand, we will go over it again. So I just try to go through it real, slow, simple, explaining it so that they can understand what's going on. Certain things that they have to get is by law. By law, you have to have certain things. Other things, those are choices, and that's sometimes I think a lot of people don't understand. Oh, well, I had to do this. No. By law, you have to do this. If you want a certain type of service, then there's certain things that we have to do by law. Not because we want you to, but we have to follow codes as well.
Wow. Okay. This is so exciting. Hold on. I got a couple more questions. And I think I probably interrupted you, but my question is so during this time where we have the COVID, how have things changed for your industry right now?
It has changed a lot, especially because, like I said, I'm originally from New York. So there's the change, especially up there, because it's a, huge population. So they're dealing with it even more so, to the fact that funeral services are pushed out 3 to 4 weeks. You have to wait. They usually, when we hear of a death, the family calls a funeral home. We will go make the removal, bring the person back to the funeral. We can't do that, being that the services are pushed back 3 to 4 weeks. We can't just bring so many people to the funeral home because we have limited space. Even for cremations, they're scheduled, cremations where, well, no, you can't come today, you can't come this day, so they're even scheduling out for cremations, which makes it harder for the funeral director trying to direct the family, because now we're not having that one-on-one personal relationship. I'm not getting to know you. I'm not getting to know your loved ones.
Yes.
Funeral services, it's not, we can't provide the actual funeral rites that they're used to. They want to come in, they want to have a viewing. We can't do that. If you have a viewing, it's going to be less than 10 minutes. They have to come in and leave. I have a lot of funeral director friends in different parts, in different states. And a friend of mine down in New Orleans, they even had like a show. It was the door frame, but when you looked at it, it didn't look like the door frame. And they put up like a plexiglass and had the person stationed there. And it was dressed up beautiful. It had the flower arrangements and everything. And people was able to drive by and view that way, because that person was also a COVID victim. So we have to continue to protect the public as well. And being that you have so many different things going on, people could be sick that comes to the service and don't know.
That's right.
So now we have, we have to protect the public as well. That's key. So services have definitely changed. We can't gather, so I know in the South, we are doing graveside services, so everything is done outside, and still the number is limited to that as well. So it's a trying time. It's a trying time. And it's very overwhelming because you got into this business to help families. And at this point, we really can't help them the way that we're used to helping them. And it's hard on them because this is my loved one. I want to do it this way. And it's not, we hate to say, well, we can't do it this way because, so it's trying. It's very trying right now.
Wow. Wow. Can you talk to me a little bit about kind of your experience? So it seemed, I know you went to school, you learned everything that you needed to know in terms of technically working with the bodies and probably the psychology piece of it, dealing with the people. But was it something, and you don't have to get too ultra personal, but had you had experiences with funerals and death kind of growing up, or is it, hey, I haven't had that many experiences, so that's why it's okay, I feel all right doing this?
I've been to funerals when I was younger. One I can remember, my grandfather, no, he was my great grandfather. He was 106.
Oh.
Now that's the fun, because I will never forget that. I was like, wow. I mean, his skin just looks so smooth. It's like certain things I will just never forget. And that I was just like, wow, So I've been to funerals, as I, grew up. the way my parents taught us about the, the dead, that they can't harm you, we definitely believe what the Bible says. So that's another thing that it has no, I'm not, scared of the dead bodies. A lot of people, they are like, how do you do that? Aren't you scared? Do you dream about the people you work on? No.
No, good. That's good to know.
People I work on, just to make sure that everything is said and done for them. But no. And I was always like, once I got in school, I was like, I want to graduate. I want to make sure I'm licensed, because anything happened to my grandmother, I want to be the one to make sure of everything.
Ooh.
And she was 82, 83 when she passed. And I was in New York and she was in the South. And, my dad called me. And it's funny, I was at his house and he wasn't even home. So he was like, where you at? I was like, duh, at your house. Where else would I be? He was like, well, your grandmother passed. And it was like a shock. And then it went right into work mode. Who has her? Where she's at? What are they doing? We contacted my family in the South, and I was just like, I'm coming. Within 2 days, we were down there. And then we went from one car to the next car to the funeral home. Wow. And, we dealt with everything there. And the funeral director, the owner of that funeral home, he was nice enough to allow me to direct the service for my grandmother. So that was like, yeah. So I was able to be there with her. She was already embalmed. So we dressed and casketed her, did her makeup, did her hair. I directed the funeral service. And everybody was just like, I don't understand how you can do that, not show no type of emotion. Again, how we're taught in school, you're not there to show emotion. You're there to comfort and direct the family. So I'm in frame of work mode, making sure, because that was my mother's mom, making sure that, my mom and her brothers and sisters was okay. My cousins was okay. My sister, making sure the family was okay. Now, I'm not going to say that night is when it was just like, wow, did this really just happen? And then I had my moment,
Absolutely.
But, yeah, because it's human. But when you're in work mode, you're just making sure everything goes accordingly. So you're not thinking of, this is my grandmother that just passed. You just want to make sure everything goes okay, because that was my promise to her. Everything is going to be fine. Even with my dad, this year made 2 years that my dad has, been gone. And me and my dad that was my ace boon coon. That's my buddy. So when he was sick, my father had prostate cancer that metastasized to his liver. So by the time they really started anything for him, it was too late, So with a death like that, you go through anticipatory grief.
Yes.
Where you know that the person is going to pass. So you have your moments, your breakdowns, your happy moments, and maybe, he can pull through. And so you go through a lot of different emotions. So by the time it actually happens, I'm not going to say prepared or you got closure, because I don't believe in that. You really don't, because, that's your dad. That's your loved one.
Right.
So, but I did everything. I had everything done. Because I was in the South and Nate was still in New York. And I did everything. And I told my mom, if anything happens, you call this number. That's all you got to do. Because I still have my funeral director friends in New York. They was like, we got you. I said, you already know.
Right.
Just go, pick him up and bring him back to the funeral home. And I'll be up here less than 2 hours,
Wow.
But thank goodness I was there. That night we were, all in the bed with him, laughing and talking. And, by this time he really couldn't talk, but he was still showing gestures that we was there. And then we woke up and we, went to our rooms. And then my mom called me back and it was like, why is he breathing like that? Now I knew why.
Oh, no.
But I didn't want to tell her. So I told her, I said, well, do you see his pulse? Because he was so little. And I said, do you see that pulse? And she was like, yeah. I said, as long as you see that pulse, he's fine. So I told my sister and her husband to come into the room, because it's just me and my sister. So they came in and, he took his last breath. And I looked at the clock and it was 12:22 a.m. in the morning. So I told her, I said, do you see a pulse? She says, no. I said, well, what's that sound? I said, that's what they call the death rattle. That was his last breath. And she was like, oh, okay. I said, well, just call hospice. because, you know, you have to call them. They just want to come get, you know, make sure of everything, and they'll sign off on the death
Right.
certificate. And my mother was like, well, my daughter's a funeral director. She was like, oh, she is? Oh my God, great. You know, because they
Mm-hmm.
know once the funeral home is there, they can go on. They don't have to stay. You
Right.
know, I already told my friend to be on alert, you know, so she was there. And, you know, and I told my mom, I said, do you want to stay in here or do you want to, you know, go out? And she's like, no, I'm going to be okay. Because usually the family is fine until we usually get there and have to wrap up the person and
Yes.
remove them. That's when all chaos breaks loose, because now in their mind, they know this is it. They're taking them
Right.
away from me.
Mm.
So I was kind of nervous, you know, with
Right.
her being there, but she did good because my parents were together since they was 12 and 13. They
Oh,
got married when they were 17 and 18. They've been married ever since. So,
wow.
you know, I was just worried for her, but she did good. She did good.
Wow.
But
So you've had a lot of personal experience
oh
too.
yeah,
So you had, like, as a young child, you saw, and just like a lot of us who've been to
right.
funerals as a child, and then as you got older. So my question is this: do your friends and family members say, "Hey, TJ, here's my list, and,
Right.
this is what I want"?
Right.
And so, I mean, do they tell you it in advance, or is it kind of like, no, I don't want to talk about that. I don't want to.
Yeah. Well, you know what? It's like almost 50-50. You know, a lot of people's like, well, you know how I want to look, and this is what I want. And I'm like, okay. I always encourage people to do pre-arrangements. Now,
Ah,
usually when you talk about death, it's like, oh, that's taboo. I said, okay. So you say, do you have car insurance? Oh, yeah. Okay. You got insurance on your house? Yeah. Oh, okay. You make preparations for that just in case something happens. It's the same thing. I
mhm.
said, but this is just more detailed. I said, you don't want to talk about it now, but God forbid if anything happens, sitting there trying to do this while you're grieving, it's not fun.
Right.
At this point, while everybody is, you know, healthy and fine, you can think about different things. Yeah, let's do this, let's do that. This is the burial plot, or we want to go the cremation route. You know your options, you're thinking clearly, you're not under duress. But let something happen, you're not in your right state of mind, and rightfully so, because you're grieving.
That's right.
So it's always best to
Mm.
do pre-arrangements. A lot of people, they'll have life insurance. They can do the pre-arrangements, just take a copy of the life insurance, and the funeral home will put that on file. So if anything was to happen, hey, you call the funeral home back, you know, this person has passed, you have their pre-arrangements set, they can go ahead with what you've chosen. Some funeral homes even have where they will set up an interest bearing account, so
Mhm.
you can, you know, pay towards the funeral and keep money there just in case. I always tell people, get your house in order. And they're like,
Mhm.
what do you mean? I said, y'all make preparations to go out every weekend and we gonna pop bottles. Okay, you got $100, $200 to blow, but at the same time, you won't take $50 once per month to pay for an insurance policy.
Right.
What's more important? You wanna have your family grieving and then stressing over how they're gonna pay for these funeral services.
Yeah, because GoFundMe is not an
Oh
insurance
my God.
account.
No, it's not.
It's not a
No, it's not.
policy. I
It's not.
that is something. That's an interesting way to look at it. One of the things that I do kind of on the side is I'm a notary, and
Oh,
so I go and I notarize wills and things like that.
right.
And I well, maybe when the world opens back up, one thing that I thought of is we should have kind of get your affairs in order parties
Yes.
where everybody is happy. I say sign the documents before the drinking starts, but just kind of like so that it's not as heavy. Um,
Right.
so people, hey, bring your wills, and I'll come and I'll notarize them, and we'll just
Mm-hmm.
do it when we're not in such a serious or sad state of mind.
Right. Right. And
Gosh.
we even try to do like seminars. You know, a lot of people, you know, you have people who have insurance policy. Great. But guess what? You put your child who's under the age of 18 on that policy. If they're not over 18, guess what? They cannot sign off on that policy in order for them to use it for your death burial,
Mm.
you know, your death benefits. So God forbid something happens to you. Yes, you have a policy, but we cannot use it. People think, oh, you go to probate court and probate can't do anything about that. You're just another number. Sad to say, but they have a lot on their plate. So they're not going to just stop and no, that's not how that works. So, we always tell somebody, yeah, put your kid on your insurance policy, leave them a portion. However, leave enough for somebody who's older, who now let me say this, who you trust.
Thank you. Thank you.
Who you trust.
That's right.
To pay for your, death benefits, because, oh gosh, girl, I have seen it. You have people who they were the beneficiary and they refused to pay for the funeral. And it's just like, wow. So I'm going to repeat again.
Come on.
Make sure you put somebody on your policy who you trust will pay for your benefits. And yes, you can leave a portion to your children. They can still have that. It'll be kept in trust for them. And it will be given to them when they are of age. So, I mean, that's a good policy. A lot of people take things out if they have a business as well. They make sure they put a little something for the business, something for the kids. When my kids were younger, I had a portion even for my parents to take care of my children. Now they're stuck with a burden. Not to say that the kids is a burden, but they wasn't planning on raising their grandkids. But God forbid if they had to, well, here's a little something that can go towards, the raising of the children, because that is nothing nobody planned for. So you really got to sit down and think about, what you're going to do, what's important to you, your family, your children, people that you leave behind,
And as you have differences in your life circumstances as they change, make sure you're updating those policies. For instance, people who get divorced, if your ex is on that policy, make sure you update your stuff, because
and you can just call the insurance the insurance company and update your policies, and they will update the records and send you the updated policy. Even sometimes people have their spouse, if their spouse passed away and they're still on there, so usually you'll have contingents on there as well. So if this person passed, then it goes to the contingent on the policy,
right?
Or if you want to remove that person and add somebody else, you're still able to do that.
Interesting, girl. I'm telling you, this is a very interesting conversation. And you've done and been through a lot. My question to you, and one of the last questions I like to ask guests, is what's a lesson that you've learned from being, from participating in this industry, from getting up close and personal with death, and as a funeral director? What's the lesson?
Being a funeral director, it made me appreciate life even more so. It really does, because while you're there, you're standing at that casket, you hear what those family members, those loved ones are saying to them. Oh, I wish I would have known. Well, we didn't get to do this. We didn't get to do that. So we appreciate life, appreciate your family, do things that, oh, we woulda, coulda, shoulda. No, do it. Don't woulda, coulda, shoulda. Do it. Enjoy life, because once they're gone, you agree, oh, I wish we would have done this and we could have did that. When my dad was sick, we had a pajama party. And I said, come up here in August, we all going to take a family picture. We all going to wear white shirts and blue jeans. And my sister was like, ain't nobody do that anymore. But we did it. And to have that picture, it's just like, I'm glad we did those things. And the year, that was in 2017. They, because I was living down here, him and my mom came down to visit, and that's when they told me, your dad had cancer. And I was just like, wait, what? Come again? But that same time, I arranged a trip for all of us to go to the Bahamas. Now, they didn't know. I was baiting them like, oh, my son is taking swimming lessons. So he said, bring your bathing suits and bring your passports, because you know how TSA is and all the crazy stuff that's going on. So they did. And I was so happy that it worked out that way, because that was our last family trip that we all took together. So don't take things for granted. If you have the time, do it. Don't just talk about it, do it. Because, at least you'll have those memories and stuff that you that y'all got to do together. And yeah, I miss my father like crazy. But at the same time, we did all that we can do, all that we can have did for him. We had that last vacation. We took those pictures. We did those kind of things. So it helps. It helps. It really does. So appreciate life, guys. Get your house in order.
All right. I'm telling you, this has been so enlightening. And I know that you're saying make sure you do things. I know and I see that you are definitely a doer,
Oh
because
yeah.
I know that in addition to being a funeral director, and I think you also own you own like 2 or 3 businesses. So,
Right.
so
I
if
do.
somebody wanted to find you online, first of all, why would they be looking for you other than as a funeral director? So if they're looking for you for that, then okay, I guess. But what
Right.
else? They're like, I like that lady. What else are you involved with? What else? What other things do you do?
Okay. I also have a daycare here in the South. It's called Cheeks Daycare Academy. So me and my daughter, we run that together as well. So I love I call them my little ducklings. Those are my babies. I love them to death. So we own a daycare as well. I also have my own cosmetic and skincare line. It's called Glamorous Eye Candy Cosmetics. So you can find us online or even on Facebook and Instagram, Glamorous Eye Candy Cosmetics. That's
Okay.
the name for both. So if they're interested in that, and our skincare line is plant-based. So it's naturally good for your skin. And for the funeral director thing, we also do headstones, Jade Monuments on Facebook as well. So
Get out of town,
yes,
girl.
ma'am. You got to have multiple streams of income. With these, this day and time, just having one income is not gonna cut it. And I'm a
Hmm.
full-fledged entrepreneur. So I work for myself and I raise my kids to see, no, we have to work as a family. This is our business. This is what this is what we do. And for the past 3 years, this is what we've been doing. And I love it. I love it.
Wonderful. Wow,
Yeah.
Glamorous Eye Candy Cosmetics. All right, I'm
Yeah.
gonna make sure I check that out, child, because I'm sure it can work wonders. People who are uh, upright, and also, you know, you probably also do a wonderful job with people who are no longer with us. But
Yeah.
yes, so wonderful. So TJ, thank you so much
Oh,
for
having me.
joining me. And I can't wait. I can't wait for this episode to go up. And because this has been so enlightening. So um, thanks everybody for joining us for another episode of Lessons in Savvy Living. Until next time, stay savvy. Bye.
Bye.